You want life? You want the world on fire?
Security?
What the hell are you doing? Where's the press?
You are?
Allen Ginsberg.
Are you a writer?
No, I'm not.
Well, you're not anything yet.
Under the right circumstances, even he might change the world.
Hi, this is Chris here with Daniel Radcliffe and Dane DeHaan, the stars of Kill Your Darlings, which is a film about the friendship that formed between some of the greatest American writers of the 20th century while they're at university. But there's a bit more to the story than that, guys, so maybe you could elaborate and tell us a little bit about who you play in the movie.
Sure. Well, I play Allen Ginsberg, and I play him at the age of sort of 17, 18, going off to Columbia University for the first time, where he meets Lucian Carr, played by Dane. And Alan falls sort of head over heels in love with Lucian. He's this very charismatic, kind of Byronic, sort of mad, bad and dangerous to know sort of figure. And that's very attractive to Alan at that point. And Lucian really sort of helps Alan discover who he is as a writer as well as a person, and is a very influential person in Alan's life. And then the story gets more involved on Lucian's side.
Yeah, and while all this is happening, Lucian is dealing with a relationship that he's had with an older man from the time he was 14 to now when he's 21, and he actually ends up murdering that guy.
Yeah. So it's not all fun and games.
It's not all fun and games, but there is some fun and games.
Yeah.
I do like to say that, because it's the danger when you're talking about a film like this is that you do just end up talking about how dark and intense it is, and it is, of course. But there were also a group of young men running around New York in the 1940s, sort of tearing it up. So you have to capture some of that fun and excitement as well. So that's in the film.
They were having a good time at uni, and there was sex and drugs and booze. And
sex, drugs and
all
poetry.
of the above.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what drew you to the script initially?
Really, it was, you don't read that much that is of that higher standard. I mean, even if you take out of the equation the fact that all these people are very well-known, famous, interesting characters, you take away their fame, and it's still a really fascinating story, and it's a story about what it was to be gay in the 1940s, and it's a story about sexual and intellectual self-discovery and growing up, basically, and those relationships that we have to recognise are toxic and move on from if we're to change as a person. But yeah, as you say, it's about being young, basically, at its heart.
And how did you guys prepare for the movie? I believe there was a lot of Allen Ginsberg diaries. Were they a help? Did they inform your performance?
I mean, the main things for me were working on the accent and just reading his diaries, as you say, and looking into as much of that as I could.
And I guess there's less about Lucian out there, so...
There is less, but there are stories and stuff that you can find in his diaries and in correspondence between Ginsberg and Kerouac. And, if you start digging, at least at this time, Lucian was documented because he was there and he was a part of their lives, so they talked about him a lot. So going back to that source material, I think, was definitely helpful.
And were you able to talk to people that had met the two guys and knew them?
I've met a few people that have met Alan, but only really in the latter stages of his life. I don't really know anyone that met him when he was 17. And you were just saying you met somebody who met Lucian recently?
Yeah, I just met someone that had met Lucian. But again, Lucian was such a different person at this point of his life than he was after he got out of jail for the murder, that it wasn't worth trying to find somebody who had known Lucian later on in life for the film, because it just wouldn't have been helpful.
No. And he distanced himself from the events and tried to kind of sweep it under the carpet. Did you ever hear from any of his family about their thoughts on you making a movie about it and kind of bringing it all up again?
No, not at all. But I think it was something that Lucian within his life tried really hard to make sure the story wasn't told. But I think ultimately it's a story that the world should know and a story the world deserves to hear. Yeah. So, I think that, there's definitely responsibility to honor it and to do it justice, but just because one person didn't want the story to be told doesn't mean that it shouldn't be told.
No.
Good answer.
Well, that's true. And also, it's an incredibly culturally significant event, in terms of it being the catalyst that then launched all these guys as writers, because it was such an impactful event for all of them. In some way, it did inform who they became as writers and knowing him. So it's not just a gratuitous retelling. There is a purpose behind it.
And do you have a favourite of Allen Ginsberg's poems?
I mean, look, a poem that I looked at, I ended up looking at a lot was Kaddish, which because it's all about it's a lot to do with him and his mother, and that's kind of one of the central relationships in the film. And it's a poem that I honestly didn't really understand before I did the movie, and through doing the movie, I understood it a lot more and connected to it more.
And I don't know if you guys write in your spare time, or did this film maybe inspire you to write, or how do you feel on that?
Well, I share a similar opinion on writing that Lucian Carr does in the film, and that I'm actually kind of terrified to write. That's just not. It's just something that I think is a very vulnerable place, and I would rather leave it up to other people to write things, and then I'll act them.
I get that feeling every day, to be honest.
Painful. I do enjoy writing, but I definitely I wrote some very bad teenage poetry and some slightly alright teenage poetry, but it's not something I definitely think I want to concentrate on. I'm trying to write scripts these days.
Oh, really?
Poetry, yeah.
Have you got anything going at the moment, or?
Well, yeah, I'm writing stuff myself, but nothing that is in any way close to being enacted.
I've been like that for about 10 years.
Right, well, yeah, I'm sure I might be in another 8.
And what do you think your guys' chances are of winning Best Kiss at the MTV Movie Awards next year?
I think they're getting better all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know of a kiss that's better than our kiss. So.
It's pretty hot.
We've had a great kiss, and
may the best men win.
Yeah, exactly. Does everyone get voting, or however you do the MTV Awards? Is it, you send in a ballot? I don't know.
I'm sure it's online.
Probably.
We'll figure. We'll start the campaign here. We also got some questions from our readers, if that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Let me just grab these. First up is from Dara O'Connor, who asks, who is your inspiration when you're acting? Who's your favourite actor?
I mean, I've loads of people that I've worked with that I really look up to, and
yeah, I guess it's been ridiculous who you've got to work with.
Yeah, but I mean, it is for like everyone. I mean, I get that, and still, but not just on Potter. Like there's a lot. I mean, Gary Oldman and David Thewlis, I remember when I met them at a very young age, they were just their approach to acting, which was both very serious, but they also had a lot of fun at the same time on set. I always really admired that about them. But yeah, I mean, I think I've worked with so many people that I just admire, and and including Dane and Ben Foster and all these people in this movie. So it's don't make me pick.
Okay. Shall I not make you pick either, Dan?
I can do a top 3 favourite actors.
Go.
James Dean, Phil Hoffman, and Al Pacino are my top 3 favourite actors.
That's strong.
Thank you.
Strong choices.
Thanks.
Another one for you, Dane, from Harvey Anderson, asking about Spider-Man 2. He asks, in what way is your version of Harry Osborn unique compared to James Franco's portrayal in the...
Well, James Franco was the Harry Osborn of 10 years ago, and I'm the Harry Osborn of today.
There you go.
And it takes place today, so there's a whole new culture surrounding it, and a whole new modern twist on what I'm doing.
And what was it like coming from kind of a modestly budgeted superhero movie to a juggernaut like this one?
The sets were a lot nicer, and we had a lot more time, for sure, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
You've kind of done a superhero movie of your own in the shape of Horns, I would say. Have you read
Kind
the book?
of, yeah, absolutely. That's if you like.
How was that? What was it like shooting that one? Maybe tell us a bit about the premise if people don't know.
Yeah, sure. I'll synopsise Horns for you. Horns is essentially about a guy I play called Ig Perish, who wakes up one morning. His girlfriend has been raped and murdered months ago. The entire town has vilified him and accused him of doing it and thinks he has done it. And then one day, after a night of drinking and inappropriate sex, he wakes up with horns growing out of his head. And it's sort of, he goes on like a 3-day ride of just basically, he realises that these horns make people confess their deepest, darkest stuff to him. So he uses that power to figure out who really killed his girlfriend. But it's this kind of amazing, grotesque, tragic love story along the way. Like it's a film that defies categorization, and I kind of like that about it.
I wish I had that power as an interviewer. That would be useful.
What? Oh yeah, just make people confess everything.
Yeah,
but then you might have to have horns grow out of your head, and would you want that?
Well, what's it like having what's it like walking around with those things?
It's kind of great. Like I spend I have in the last third of the movie, I have a huge pair of horns growing out of my head, and I have a 6-foot python wrapped around me, and it's all pretty empowering. I've got to be honest. It's like holding a snake is similar, I imagine, to what holding a gun is like. It's just sort of that line in The Simpsons where Homer says, "I felt great when he was holding a gun." He says, "I felt great, Marge, like God must feel when he's holding a gun." But yeah, it's just a very, it's like having the best prop in the world, basically.
Yeah. Well, I don't need them on my head. I've always got the horn anyway.
There you go.
Dane, I've got a question from Matt Chaplin, who says, "Did the puppet in Through the Never freak you out?"
Oh, I loved that guy. Yeah, little man. He was made by like some magical puppet maker, and I loved that thing so much. He didn't freak me out. We became good friends. Me and little man.
I was talking to James McAvoy the other day.
Oh, cool.
And he just started rehearsals with you on Frankenstein. So how is that going for you?
It's good. We've only had one rehearsal day so far. We're actually rehearsing a lot more, I think, next week. But yeah, he's fantastic, and we had a whole meeting about the script and just talking it through and rehearsing bits and pieces, and it was he's fantastic. I'm already, after having one session with him, it's just like, I can tell that he works in the same way I do and wants the same things for the film, which is for it to be, you're always looking for ways to lift it together and to see what the combination of you brings to the table and work on chemistry. So it's not just what you've got on the page, and there's more than that going on, that's why rehearsal time is lovely, because you get to sort of establish that chemistry.
And can you tell me a little bit about your Igor?
I mean, he is hunchbacked, and there is I don't know what would be saying too much at this point, but he's definitely been given more of a backstory than you ever have seen before, and he's sort of and hopefully a much deeper, sort of more interesting character than he's been granted the privilege of being in the past. But yeah, I don't want to say too much about the backstory, just because I don't know what information's out there, and I don't know what people already know and what I should be doing to myself.
James was just saying it's very much about the friendship between
your two characters. That's really, it's about, these guys were... It's about two guys in the 1850s who, it's at the forefront of science. We're at the peak of the Industrial Revolution in Britain. And these guys were around at a time when scientists weren't just thinking about observing nature and documenting it, but he talked about having creative forces of actually dominating it, and it's a battle over morality, basically. This guy, Victor Frankenstein, is a genius who I'm both working with him, and we fire off each other creatively, Victor and Igor, but at the same time I kind of have to keep an eye out for his morality, because he's so single-minded that it becomes a danger.
Cool. I can't wait to see it.
Cool.
We had a bunch of Potter questions that come in. Some of them are a bit ridiculous.
Okay.
But I wanted to ask you, do you watch the films back these days?
No.
Not even at Christmas when the rest of us are watching them?
No, why would I? No.
Because they're good films.
But not like you don't watch anything you're in at Christmas, because that's just weird. You don't like sit your family down and say, let's watch something I'm in.
Fair enough.
That's weird.
I think a lot of us were surprised, though, when Jo Rowling came out and said she was going to write this screenplay for
Yes.
Fantastic Beasts. Did you
Did not know
about that in advance?
No, I didn't know. No.
And what's your thoughts on her returning to it?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I think there is still definitely, obviously, a huge hunger for more of that world, and people definitely miss it. And so I think she's clearly feel comfortable stepping back to it after stepping away and having had success with other ventures. And yeah, I think it's great for everybody that's very excited about it, and there are a lot of people who are.
Well, I kind of thought she would never go back. I thought, she told the story she wanted to tell, but now
Well, I think that's the thing. I mean, as far as I'm aware, it's completely unconnected to anything she's told before, and it's. I don't know what the story of it's going to be. I do know nothing about it. The only things I know, I've heard from journalists in interviews.
Yeah.
And there's no reason that they should tell me anything, because I'm not involved. But it's. So I don't know a huge amount, but I guess it's just some sort of trip through the world of beasts and stuff. I really don't know. I'm so uneducated about it, it's embarrassing.
And if in a future one of these films there's ever a part for a grown-up Harry Potter? Would it interest you, or?
No, I mean, not particularly. I don't want to, like, somebody in an interview the other day asked me that question. I kind of, you know, you don't want to say no because it just sounds like you're being dismissive, and then that sort of gets taken out of context on the internet, and people start going, oh, he's turned his back on it, and it's this and that, and it's not any of that. But like, the reality is, I will have worked for some time at that stage to get people to see me as an actor rather than just that character. So I'm not sure what the benefits would necessarily be of stepping back to it.
So I can't write the headline, Daniel Radcliffe hates Harry Potter.
You can't, I'm afraid. Sorry.
That's fair enough. We got a question from Joshua William Batch, who says, would you ever considering doing work aside from acting, are you producing or directing, Dane?
Gosh, maybe, like at some point, but right now, you know, the getting's good in the acting world, and that's what I've always loved to do, so I'm just enjoying that. Maybe later on in life I'll want to take on different roles, but right now it's all about the acting.
What about you, Dane?
I mean, pretty much exactly the same answer as Dane. I'm very focused on acting right now with no plans to sort of, you know, I write, but that's just for myself more than anything else at the moment. So yeah, one day, like I would love to direct, but I think that's a way off because I'm quite happy acting right now.
Do you feel like you learnt a lot through all the different directors that you work with through the Harry Potter films, and then?
Yeah, through Potter and now on to these other projects. Yeah, absolutely. I like to think that I've learned something from every job that I take with me to the next, and you know, I hope that applies to directing as well. I hope I'm kind of picking up information as I go along.
Cool. And so we know that you're doing Frankenstein next. What are you up to next, Dane?
Next,
I guess you've wrapped on Spider-Man, is that right?
Yeah, we wrapped Spider-Man a little while ago. Mm-hmm. The next film I'm filming is called Life. Anton Corbijn is going to direct it, and I play James Dean in it.
Ah.
Yeah.
And a fan of James Dean, I believe I've heard.
Yeah, where'd you hear that?
So what period of James Dean's life is this going to...
It's about 2 weeks of his life right before East of Eden came out, so kind of before most people really knew who he was, but right before he was about to become like this thing. And it's about a relationship between James Dean and a photographer named Dennis Stock, who followed him around for 2 weeks for a photojournalism thing for Life magazine. And a lot of the most iconic images of James Dean came from those 2 weeks.
Cool, great. I can't wait to see it. Well, thanks a lot for coming in, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, good to meet you.
Thank you very much. Nice
Good to meet you.
Thank you.
Kill Your Darlings is out on Friday, December the 6th. And for more news on that and all of the projects these guys have coming up, keep it locked to IGN.
You wanted him gone. You sent him to me.